Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back on another video here today, and we are going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers and their expectations going into the next 2024 season. I'm very excited to talk about this team for a couple of reasons, but one being that they are a anomaly. I don't know exactly what to think about them. I do, but I feel like a lot of people have some not high expectations, but optimistic expectations, we'll say. So we'll kind of dive into what to expect from this team in this video here today. So before we get started, please leave a like down below, comment any suggestions going forward for videos below, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So as always, we start off looking at this team and what it's built up from. So of course, the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, all that good stuff. We're going to be looking at all this and seeing what's at the helm and giving my initial thoughts. First of all, quarterback, Bryce Young, of course, the #1 pick last year. The quarterback going into Carolina and will likely be the fullback, full quarterback. Even though he did poor last year, everybody's hoping that he does better and can show some strides this year. There is a lot of worries when it comes to this team on offense. Chuba Hubbard is like a easy backup quarterback or backup running back. Can he get the volume and get enough yards to be kind of relevant? Sure, but pretty much any running back worth the salt can. Jonathan Brooks is probably going to be the starting back by the end of the year, but Miles Sanders, Rashad Penny, like all four of those guys are just, well, outside of Brooks, because we don't know what Brooks has capable of yet, are just slightly around the average mark. Miles Sanders just an average running back. Rashad Penny hasn't shown anything but averageness. So Chuba Hubbard is not going to get very much runs here. So it's going to be a very big four-man backfield back there with Chuba Hubbard, Brooks, Sanders, and Penny. So we'll see how it goes and who ends up being the starting running back, but I would not trust any of these guys to be the leading running back going into the season. Then we got the receivers, and this is a hard one. Deontay Johnson has the talent behind him, or has the talent, but he hasn't showed much, and we'll talk about him here in a little bit. Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette, of course, is the 32nd pick, the 32nd pick in this last draft, I think. Whatever. And sure, he has the capability of being great. I don't see anything much from him this season, but could he be good? Sure. And then you got Adam Thielen. He was really, really, really good for fantasy and even for this team the first half of the season, and then he just kind of dropped off slowly but surely. So I don't know what to think of this team. Is Adam Thielen actually going to come in and be really, really good? Is Deontay Johnson going to be even, really, really kind of what Deontay Johnson could bring? Will Xavier Legette pop off? Who knows? Then you got the tight end, Tommy Tremble. He's the worst tight end in the league, starting tight end in the league, I should say. The O-line got slightly better. It's okay-ish, so maybe Bryce Young will have a little bit more time. But all of this is such a mediocre team with a quarterback. Even after 1 year of just building the team together, Bryce Young is the only kind of maybe bright spot. But even then, he is a quarterback who is now surrounded by people who can't lift him up at all. Or unless he's just going out there and being the absolute best quarterback, he cannot lift up himself. So it's kind of tough. And I think the defense will be slightly better, more in the competition race. But looking at these names, you got a couple good ones. Javion Clowney, Shaq Thompson. I have a couple, J.C. Horn, a couple good expectations for the defense, but I'm not very optimistic with how much volume they're probably going to end up getting thanks to the offense. So that's kind of my initial thoughts there. Looking at previous year, we'll kind of break it down. Quarterback first. Bryce Young. Last year, 2,800 yards, almost 2,900. So he's very capable of getting 3,000 yards. Of course, that was with Adam Thielen doing extremely good last year. And, like I said, a pretty, split backfield. They had DJ Chark too, but now are Xavier Legette's back there. Sure. It's really rough. I mean, a lot of the things hasn't changed, so I'm not going to give them too much discredit or credit, but we'll see. We'll go and just kind of look at the quarterbacks in previous years. Baker Mayfield being the leading one. Of course, there was competition between not competition, but there was just changes in the guard. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, P.J. Walker. So ended up being 3,246 yards. Sure, fine, but I mean, so did the whole Carolina backfield when Andy Dalton did. So take that as you will. So they're very capable of getting a little over 3,000 yards. Same again. Previous year, Sam Darnold got 2,500, and the previous year before that, Teddy Bridgewater was a capable, starting quarterback. More just a suitable, probably more so. But again, that is with DJ Moore there as well as Robbie Chosen, Curtis Samuel. Very, very good receiving team. Plus, Christian McCaffrey was there. Granted, he didn't play very many games, but he did at least boost it up for at least 3 games. So it's really hard to judge over this time frame for quarterback. Bryce Young, of course, did not end up very many touchdowns, and he ended up with a ton of interceptions. Took a ton of sacks. That was kind of crazy. Touchdowns, again, very split backfield. Ended up 13 total. 36 sacks taken. 16 touchdowns total, 13 interceptions taken the previous year, and 36 total sacks. So the sacks actually did go up quite a bit. I don't think it'll be nearly as this bad, but it'll still be up there. Then you got 14, 21, 52 sacks, 14, 21, 52 right there for touchdowns, interceptions, and sacks. Not very good. And then kind of looking at it again, 16, 16, and 36. The Carolina Panthers have not been good at all in this previous years, and I don't see that really changing in that side of things. Rushing, again, you had a leading rusher of 902, 914, 612, and then, of course, Mike Davis, 642. So they really never really had a great year with Christian McCaffrey in the last 4 years. Granted, I guess it's only 2 years of Christian McCaffrey, but take that as you will. Again, and that was only half a season with this because they got traded. Either way, there's no optimism for me on the run side of this team. Sure, they show flashes where possibly a running back can get 900 yards. Don't get me wrong, I could see that happening because with volume, anybody can get that kind of yardage. I mean, Chuba Hubbard did last year, and he was capable. I mean, he averaged 3.8, so that's fine. Then you see 4.5 Deontay Foreman. Deontay Foreman actually did fairly well, so give some credit there, I'll give. But this year, are we really expecting that from the running back? I'm not too sure. Take that as you will. Receiving-wise, Adam Thielen, 1,000 yards, and everybody else was easily below 700. Touchdown-wise, he had 4 and 5, leading the pack here. It's just not very impressive. Adam Thielen, even then, became very much became very unproductive by the end of the season. So we'll see how that ends up going. Receiving, DJ Moore, of course. Even DJ Moore, who's a really, really good wide receiver, barely didn't even get to 1,000 yards. And DJ Moore was a very capable quarterback or wide receiver at this time. 7 touchdowns, though, was pretty impressive to see. Then kind of going again, DJ Moore kind of still leading the pack. They get 1,000+ yards there. And then, of course, DJ Moore again, 1,000+ yards. So even with a lead, and Robbie Chosen also very, very fucking good at this time. So, I mean, these wide receivers have the capabilities of doing it when they have competent quarterbacks like Teddy Bridgewater. Then they kind of squeeze it out of 1 year when Sam Darnold was not very good. They can squeeze a wide receiver out of it, but they cannot really do much. Adam Thielen is a suitable wide receiver, nothing more. DJ Chark is a suitable wide receiver, nothing more. And actually, DJ Chark's not even there anymore, so I don't know why I'm talking about DJ Chark. Deontay Johnson, I see him pretty much on that same level as DJ Chark right now, maybe slightly above. I'll give Deontay Johnson a little bit more credit than that, but it's just rough. It's rough out here looking at the wide receivers for this team. And, of course, again, the sacks were anywhere from 62 last year to like 30-something, so they could be better or worse, who knows. Looking at this previous year's defense, though, 27 sacks, 8 interceptions. Interesting, 27-8. Again, I kind of look at this for the first time. I always look at all these over, of course, to make my predictions before, but I don't recall exactly the previous numbers when I make my decision. I do a bunch of research, make my decision based on the research, and then I come back and review these numbers. 35-10, 35 sacks, 10 interceptions this last time. And then let's look at the defense from 2021. So, I mean, 39-9. I mean, they're pretty much in the lower half, but they're not doing horrible. They've never been in the extremely bad side. And 29-7, 29 sacks, 7 interceptions. So we'll see how that all ends up being. Again, I don't expect any good numbers from this whole team. I know people are optimistic about possibly Bryce Young. Oh my gosh, can he get 3,000+ yards? Like, this was him. What's average on game? 180 per game for Bryce Young to break, or basically about 185, 190 to break to 3,000 yards, right? I'm not too sure exact math, but like, he has to be pretty much consistently up there in yardage, has to be healthy, has to be doing this, has to be doing that. I don't know if I'm confident in Bryce Young and what numbers he can get. Can he get 200+ yards? Yeah, I think he could. But it's just that based on the bell curve of what quarterbacks do in each season, am I that confident with Bryce Young, with this team surrounding him, will end up doing something? I don't know. We'll kind of see. But Deontay Johnson, we'll talk about Deontay Johnson for a second. So previous years, he has peaked at 1,000 yards. In the last couple of years, he's basically peaked at almost 900 yards. This 1,000 yards, very, very good. What was the Pittsburgh team? This was Big Ben's last year, right? This is Big Ben's last 2021. I'm just getting some clarification here based on 21 postseason. So this was still Big Ben. Now, what was Big Ben? How good was Big Ben stat-wise? No, he wasn't great his last season, but like, he was fine. I know people were shitting on him on his last year, but also I guess it's just because Big Ben, you expect a lot more from Big Ben in his last year. But 3,700 yards is still very, very suitable. And having Deontay Johnson with a good quarterback is kind of important to note there. Meanwhile, he didn't kind of fail to Kenny Pickett. So, I mean, give some credit there. But again, we don't know how good Bryce Young is, and I don't think Deontay Johnson is a wide receiver to make the quarterback. I think that he has to have a quarterback who can kind of work with him, and I don't know if Bryce Young can, and more importantly, I don't know if the team around Bryce Young could make Bryce Young capable of being the quarterback Ben Roethlisberger was. Plus, the coaching staff is a whole other factor. This just kind of goes into my initial thoughts of like, the Carolina Panthers are basically not going to be very good. But let's take a look at the stats and take a look at what I kind of think going into this next season. So, of course, this going into the Carolina Panthers and what I think. So, quarterback predictions, Bryce Young. Again, I do this in ranges. And I think Bryce Young, and I think this is my first prediction for under 3,000 yards. I think Bryce Young will not get 3,000 yards. I just think, looking at all this, I just don't have the confidence that he's going to do well again. Not because he is not very good. It's just that I don't see the team around him being any better. And I think, honestly, in a lot of ways, I can see the team doing worse. And most times out of not, I don't see them doing that much better than the previous year. And with him getting almost 2,900 yards, granted that was one game missing, so could he get 3,000 yards? Sure, he could. I just don't see it. I don't think Bryce Young will be a very major player in the quarterback scene for very long. I think that this is next year will kind of be his last year of being a major player in the scene, and then people will give up on him. Now, maybe not, because maybe he can show some flashes and stay like the Trevor Lawrence type quarterback and eventually get to that level. But with how he's not properly developed, he wasn't properly coached and developed in the NFL. He's thrown into the fire, and I think that's just started off a very, very poor start to his career. And I just don't think the momentum's there for him anymore. Could he revive it? Sure, he could. Don't say he couldn't. I have confidence in Bryce Young himself doing it. I just don't have confidence in Carolina Panthers doing that for him. And we don't see very many players go from a team and then being developed to another team. Doing poor in one team and being developed well in another. Especially after a couple of years. So we'll see. I'll give him 14 touchdowns, around about what he got last year. I think he got one less, but oh well. 250, 300 rushing yards is the range he had last year. I'm not going to try to go out and predict something crazy for Bryce Young. He's probably going to be running for his life a little bit, but we'll go for it. And one rushing touchdown. I don't think he got any last year, but I'll just say he probably gets a random rushing touchdown for sure. 16 interceptions. I think he's going to throw more interceptions than touchdowns. I think just think that's pretty reasonable. I think the O-line's not going to hold up that very well, and I think they play some good teams, and that's going to happen. Especially with the division the way it's looking, I think there's a good secondary in that division. And I got Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to go less than 799 yards. I said I've been using 700 as the total, but 800 is really the kind of capable starting running back total. Chuba Hubbard with volume could get it. I just don't think he'll be the starting running back, so I'm going to give him that and 4 touchdowns. I'm sure he'll get some volume in the end zone at the very least, because I think honestly, now I think about all the running backs in that backfield have very good capabilities of punching through the end zone. But sure, I'll give him 4 touchdowns. I'm okay with that. Receiving predictions, I'm going to give. This is really rough. Tommy Tremble. We'll start with the easy one. Tight end, less than 700. Don't think he's ever gotten over 700. Pretty easy. He'll get 1 touchdown, maybe 2. He's gotten more in the past, actually. So funny enough, Tommy Tremble has gotten like 4 or 5 in the past. I just don't think he'll be a big player in this team next year. I think Deontay Johnson will kind of take a lot of that away from him. I think Adam Thielen will be relevant enough to take that away from him. I just don't think Tommy Tremble fits into that team very, very well. And I only know if he'll be the starting tight end. You could give him another touchdown or 2, sure, because he's a tight end who's probably going to be schemed around in the end zone. Sure, I'll concede that a little bit. Just don't see it very often. Adam Thielen, he's an end zone machine, so he'll get he'll get the most receiving touchdowns on the team, and I think he'll end up leading the team in receptions. He might reach 900. I don't see him reaching 1,000. I think Deontay Johnson is going to be a better long-range receiver. I just don't think with the team the way it is, Deontay Johnson will give as many looks, meaning Adam Thielen will end up being a more important aspect of that team, or more yardage output player on the team. Deontay Johnson will have some flashes here and there, but I just don't see him getting over 800 yards. So, and he'll get 3 receiving touchdowns. I'll go with that. And this hurts. This hurts doing to all these 3 of these players. Well, not Tommy Tremble. I don't really care about him. It hurts to do Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen because I think they're both capable players. I think Adam Thielen is someone who in the past could be a reliable, or I think he's still a reliable wide receiver. Let me say that. He's a reliable wide receiver right now. I think that he scales with the quarterback. And I think last year he had glimpses where he had to scale so much he actually showed a lot of flashes from Bryce Young. I just don't think that he can do that this year, especially with Deontay Johnson possibly being a better wide receiver than him. I'm not too sure when you compare the two who's better, so we'll go with it. But we'll see. Maybe Deontay Johnson gets schemed around more. This is not even talking about how healthy both these players can be on their older side of things. So we'll see. This is my prediction for this team. 8 touchdowns with total, so there's like 6 touchdowns to go around other players. Sounds about right to me. O-line predictions. I am going to predict 60-plus sacks, though, still. I think the O-line will do better, but considering they did 62 sacks last year, I guess I don't really see them doing better. Here's what it comes down to. I hope this O-line does better. I just don't know if I have the confidence in them actually doing better. They let up 62 sacks last year, and that's a really hard number to reach again. But usually there's a couple teams that end up with 60-plus sacks. And if I'm looking at O-lines in the league, this is one of the worst ones. So I kind of have to give a really bad sack percentage. In reality, you could probably say they'd probably get the 56 to 58 range. But of the teams, I have to be mindful of the other teams I'm reviewing and allowing these bell curve numbers to. So I'm just going to give the O-line 60-plus sacks. Not really care that much. They'll get less than 34. I think that is a step up from last year. I think they'll step up from last year. Actually, I don't even know what the number was last year. I can't remember now. I think actually it was around 34. So I think they'll get less. And I think the logic I have really behind that is just the teams they play are really good O-lines, have good O-lines. The NFC South is not anything to be played with, especially this year. I think all those teams got extremely better, while the Carolina Panthers fell a little bit. Now, I'm not saying they got extremely better, as in they're capable, big 12-5 teams, but they're all very competent teams, I feel like, now, while the Carolina Panthers are kind of falling behind now. Less than 10 interceptions, they'll probably get 9. We'll go with that. That sounds good to me. And then looking at their schedule, again, it's really rough. Looking at their division, they might win one game. I'll give them one game, probably against the Saints, maybe a random game against the Bucks. I don't think against the Falcons. I don't know. So I got a good feeling about that. So we'll give them 1-5 there. I think they're very capable of splitting games with the Giants and Cardinals. So 2-6 there. They're losing all 4 of these games. Not even going to question it. 2-10 at that point. Then look at these 5 games. They're going to lose this against the Eagles, 2-11. I think they'll lose against the Bears at the very least, 2-12. And I think they win one game maybe between these 3 teams, 3-14. I think all 3 of these teams are very teams that can easily drop a game to the Carolina Panthers. So it wouldn't surprise me. But I also think that all of these teams are at least somewhat competent. So I'm going to give them 3-14 as my possible win prediction. I think they'll step up a little bit. I think they had close games last year. I think there's going to be some splashes is what my theory is. That there's going to be splashes from this team to show that maybe there's something there and keep people excited. I don't think there's going to be an XFL team. Obviously, I don't think any NFL team has really ever been an XFL team, though people joke about the Carolina Panthers last year being an XFL team. Don't think they were. I think they're still miles above even the Stallions. I shouldn't say miles, but they're still a margin above the Stallions because this is professional coaches, professional players who've been in this league with that type of high-tier talent. So let that be known. This is unfortunately not saying this is fortunately saying that the Carolina Panthers are not a XFL team. This is me saying that the Carolina Panthers are the worst professional football team. And I shouldn't say that because the Stallions and the UFL are also professional football teams. But you get it. The highest level of football is here in the NFL. And I think the Carolina Panthers are the worst team in it. Now, that's to say they're the worst of the best. So it hurts me to say that. So I'm sorry for any Carolina Panthers fans. I didn't have great news for you, but somebody has to be at the bottom. Broncos will likely follow you there. Raiders probably will too. We'll see. I'm just not too sure on the standing of all this. And I hope the Carolina Panthers do well because I always root for the underdogs. I like seeing people who are not expected to do well because it's exciting. When the Carolina Panthers upset the Chiefs or something, that'd be exciting. And we'll use the team that I'm not hating on, but the Cowboys. They upset the Cowboys or the Eagles that are 2 really good teams. That'd be fucking awesome because I'd be excited for that because I don't hate the Carolina Panthers. I just don't think their team is very good. So we'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. StraightA Dawson, out of here.